The night sky above Zara 9 was quiet, calm and painted with silver light from 2 moons. It was just another silent evening on the human colony. Farmers were shutting down their drones, children were running home, and guards at the research base were bored, half asleep. But then the calm broke. A line of blue fire cut through the dark sky, fast, bright, and loud like the roar of a dying star. The ground trembled as something huge crashed into the western desert. Within seconds, alarms echoed across the colony. Soldiers rushed out. Dust and heat filled the air. The commander shouted orders as a small group of men moved toward the crash site. There, lying half buried in the sand, was a pod. Silver, smooth, and unlike any design known to humans. Strange blue symbols glowed faintly on its surface, alive, shifting like liquid. Nobody dared to touch it. Is it alien? One soldier whispered. No record of it in our systems, replied another, his voice shaking. When the pod hissed open, everyone stepped back. Smoke poured out, and inside lay a small figure. A childlike creature, skin pale with light flowing under it like veins of electricity. It was breathing, but barely. Its eyes were closed, and its body was wrapped in a strange metallic cloth. The men aimed their weapons, unsure whether to help or shoot. Then Captain Reed arrived. He was an engineer, not a soldier, but one who had seen strange things in space. He looked at the creature and felt something he couldn't explain. Not fear, but a deep pull inside his chest. The commander warned him to stay away. It could be dangerous, he said. Reed ignored him. He stepped closer and knelt beside the pod. The alien's eyes opened suddenly, glowing a soft blue. For a long second, they just stared at each other. And then, the alien whispered, one single word. It said Reed. The soldiers froze. Reed went pale. How could it know his name? He looked at the creature in shock. But before he could ask anything, the alien fainted again. The commander ordered it to be taken to the research facility. Reed followed as they carried it away, his mind full of questions. Who was this being? How did it fall from the sky? And why did it know him? Inside the lab, the alien was placed in a glass chamber. Scientists rushed around, scanning, measuring, whispering. They named it Subject Kale. They said it was not human, not machine, or something in between. When Reed saw the tests, his stomach twisted. They were treating the alien like an object, not a life. But the commander didn't care. We must know what it is, he said coldly. If it's a threat, we destroy it. Days passed. Kale stayed silent. The scientists tried to talk, but the alien never answered. Only when Reed came near did its eyes move. It seemed to understand him even without words. Reed began visiting at night, bringing food, talking softly. You know my name, he said once. How? The alien only tilted its head, touching the glass with its small hand. For some reason, Reed felt he should protect it. Something inside him whispered that Kale was not the danger here, but others thought differently. Soldiers said machines started acting strange whenever Kale was awake. Lights flickered. Doors opened without touch. A few men said they heard whispers in their radios, voices that weren't human. Fear began to grow. Soon, rumors spread that Kale could control the base systems. The commander decided to limit Reed's visits. It's not your friend, he warned. It's a weapon. Still, Reed sneaked in every night. He saw Kale trying to speak, forming words slowly. Not weapon, it said once weakly. Help. Me. The simplicity of the voice broke Reed's heart. He promised quietly, I'll help you. The alien smiled faintly before closing its eyes again. One evening, during a heavy storm, the entire base went dark. Power cut out, screens went black, alarms blared across the compound. Soldiers ran in panic. When the emergency lights came on, Kale's chamber was empty. The glass door was open, cracked from the inside. On the floor near the open cell lay one thing, Reed's ID card. Everyone turned toward him. You helped it escape, the commander shouted. Reed was shocked. No, I didn't. But no one believed him. Guards took his weapon and locked him in the barracks under watch. Outside, searchlights scanned the desert for signs of the alien. But nothing was found. Only a strange blue glow far away on the dunes flickered once and vanished into the storm. That night, Reed sat by the window, staring at the rain hitting the glass. He couldn't sleep. The alien had spoken his name. It had trusted him. And now it was gone. Deep down, he knew something wasn't right. The way the machines had shut down, the way the lights died just before Kyle vanished. It wasn't a normal escape. It was planned. As thunder echoed across the desert, Reed whispered to himself, Where did you go, Cale? And what are you really? Far away in the dark wasteland, the alien child stood under the storm. The rain hissed against his glowing skin. His eyes turned toward the horizon, and a soft light pulsed in his chest. The word Reed escaped his lips once more, carried away by the wind, like a promise that their paths would cross again. The sun rose slowly over the red dunes of Zara 9, burning away the last of the storm. Inside the colony base, everything was tense and silent. Soldiers moved through the halls with heavy boots, checking every corner, every shadow. The alien Cale was gone, and Captain Reed was still the only suspect. The commander's voice echoed through the speakers. Search every zone. That creature is not to be trusted, and if you see Reed, arrest him again. Reed sat alone in an empty storage room, his wrists still sore from the cuffs. He had managed to slip away when the guards changed shift, but now he was trapped inside the base. His mind raced. Cale was gone. The little alien who had looked at him like a friend who had spoken his name. Reed couldn't believe Cale was dangerous. Something deeper was happening. Something the commanders were hiding. He crept toward the lab area, careful to avoid the cameras. The hallways smelled of metal and dust. In Cale's chamber, the glass was shattered completely now. The air was cold, the machines were burned out, and the floor was covered in strange symbols, glowing lines that looked like writing. Reed knelt to touch them. They were still warm. Suddenly, the lights above flickered again. The same pattern Cale used to make before. Reed's heart pounded. He's still out there, a voice broke the silence. Looking for your pet, Captain? Reed turned quickly. Commander Huck stood behind him, tall and sharp-eyed, holding a pistol. You've made a big mistake, Reed. That thing was not a child. It's a system, a living code. It can take control of our technology. It can destroy everything. Reed stood firm. Then why are you so afraid of it? Hux narrowed his eyes. Because I've seen what happens when they wake up. Before Reed could ask what that meant, the commander's radio buzzed. A soldier shouted, "Sir!" The outer sensors, they're reacting again. Something's moving in the wasteland. Hux cursed and left in a hurry. Reed used the moment to slip away, running through a side door out into the open desert. The air outside was hot and dry. The red sand stretched for miles, but far on the horizon Reed saw something. A faint blue glow. He started walking toward it, hoping, praying. Hours passed, his feet sinking into the sand, but the light grew stronger. When he reached the rocks at the base of a canyon, he saw it clearly. Cale. The alien was standing near an old mining ruin, the blue glow from his skin lighting the walls. But he was not alone. Around him floated small machines, drones broken and half dead, yet moving, obeying his silent command. When Reed stepped closer, the drones turned their red eyes toward him, ready to attack. "It's me," Reed said softly. "Cale, it's me." The alien's head tilted. For a second, the glow in his eyes dimmed. Then he spoke, his voice quiet but clear. "You came." Reed smiled, full of relief. "Of course. I said I'd help you." Kyle looked down, touching the ground. The sand under his feet shifted, forming lines and symbols again. "They want me gone," Cale whispered. "They fear me. But I did nothing." Reed stepped closer. "I know. But they'll never understand what they fear. You have to hide." Cale shook his head slowly. "Hide? No, they will find me." "They will kill more." "They already have." Reed froze. "What do you mean?" Kyle's glowing hand rose, pointing toward the sky. A hologram formed, flickering images of human ships firing at alien vessels, cities burning, worlds falling. "Long ago," Cale said, "my people built the machines of origin. We made them to protect life. But humans found them, changed them. Now those machines kill for them." Reed stared, speechless. It couldn't be true. And yet something inside him believed it. "So you came here to stop them?" Cale nodded. "I came to stop the war before it begins again. But your leaders shot me down." For a long time they stood in silence. Reed felt the weight of what he had just heard. The alien wasn't a monster, he was a warning. Suddenly the ground shook. From above the canyon, lights appeared. Drones, hundreds of them, flying in formation. The military had found them. A voice roared through the speakers. "Surrender the creature, Captain Reed, or we open fire." Reed grabbed Cale's arm. "Run!" But Cale didn't move. His eyes glowed brighter, almost white. "No," he said. "Not again." The air around them began to hum. The machines froze in midair. Their lights flickered one by one, turning blue. the same color as Kale's glow. In seconds, the entire swarm of drones turned against the base, flying upward like a metal storm. Explosions lit the sky. Reed could barely see through the smoke and wind. When it was over, Kale was standing still, his energy fading. He looked tired, weak. Reed caught him before he fell. "They'll come for us now," Reed said. Kale's voice was faint. "They already are." Reed looked toward the burning horizon. Alarms echoed from the colony and ships lifted into the sky. The war Kale warned about had already begun, and this time it was both of them against the world. The morning sun rose over the burning sands of Zara 9, but peace was long gone. The night before had left the colony in chaos. Explosions, smoke, and silence where the communication towers once stood. The military blamed one man, Captain Reed. They said he had betrayed his people, helped an alien destroy human property, and vanished into the desert. Posters with his face were already flashing across colony screens. Wanted, for treason and harboring a hostile entity. Reed was no longer a soldier. He was a fugitive. He walked through the empty wastelands with nothing but a broken compass and a name echoing in his mind. Kyle. The alien had saved him, but at what cost? He remembered the blue light, the way Kale had stopped the drones with only a thought and the look in his eyes. Half sorrow, half power. Reed wasn't sure if Kale was a friend, or something much greater. He stopped by a cliff to rest. The wind howled across the rocks, carrying whispers from the broken radio he had salvaged. A voice crackled through, Commander Hux. "Find him. He's with the alien. Bring them both in, or bring back what's left." Reed turned off the radio. He knew what that meant, no mercy. The military didn't want Kale captured. They wanted him erased. As night fell, Reed reached the edge of an old mining city, long abandoned. Buildings stood like skeletons and the air smelled of rust and silence. He found shelter inside a half-collapsed tower. There, under the faint light of his torch, he saw something strange on the walls, blue markings glowing faintly. The same kind Kale had left in the lab. He followed them through the tunnels deeper underground. The symbols led him to a wide chamber filled with broken machines, and there, sitting cross-legged in the center, was Kale. The alien looked weaker than before. His glow had faded and his skin was cracked like glass. "You shouldn't have come," Kale said softly, not even looking up. Reed stepped closer. "You need help. You can't fight them alone." Kale shook his head slowly. "They will never stop. Not until one of us is gone." Reed sat beside him. "Then we find a way to end it and without more blood." Kale finally turned to him, his glowing eyes full of something between pain and hope. "You still believe in peace," he said. "That is why they fear you." Before Reed could answer, a sound echoed through the tunnels, metallic footsteps steady and close. Reed's heart jumped. He pulled Kale behind a broken machine. Soldiers were entering the chamber, their flashlights cutting through the dark. "Check the walls," one of them ordered. "Command says the signal is here." Reed counted 3 soldiers. He looked at Kale. "Stay down." Then he threw a piece of metal across the floor. The sound echoed, drawing the soldiers' attention. As they moved, Reed jumped from behind, tackling the last one, grabbing his weapon. A short fight followed, quick, violent, desperate. In the end, all 3 lay unconscious. Reed was breathing hard, blood on his sleeve. Kale watched quietly. "You fight like one of us," he said. Reed wiped his face. "I fight for what's right." But before they could move, one of the soldiers' radios buzzed. A cold, mechanical voice came through. "Units down. Deploy drones. Initiate purge protocol." Reed froze. "Purge protocol?" Kale looked up sharply. "They're sending hunters." Moments later, the ceiling shook. From above, a swarm of metal spheres dropped into the tunnels, glowing red. Drones built for one purpose: elimination. Their laser sights danced across the walls. Reed grabbed Kale's hand. "Run!" They sprinted through the tunnels as energy blasts tore through the air. Rocks exploded, dust filled the passage. Reed pushed Kale ahead, shouting directions. But the tunnels twisted like a maze, and every path seemed to lead deeper. Behind them, the drones screamed like angry ghosts. Finally, they reached an old elevator shaft. Reed looked up. It went all the way to the surface. "Climb," he yelled. Kale started up, his hands glowing to pull himself faster. Reed followed, his muscles burning. Halfway up, one of the drones fired, hitting the wall beside him. He slipped, barely catching the edge. Kale reached down, his small hand glowing blue, and grabbed Reed's arm. A surge of energy ran through him. Suddenly, Reed felt lighter, stronger. They made it to the top, gasping for air. The desert stretched before them, endless and silent. Behind them, the mine collapsed, burying the drones in fire. Reed turned to Cale. That was too close. Cale didn't answer. He was staring into the distance and at something Reed couldn't see. They will send more, Cale said quietly. Not soldiers. Something worse, Reed frowned. What do you mean? Cale looked at him, his expression unreadable. They have my code now. They can make others like me. Reed's stomach dropped. Clones? Kyle nodded. No, copies, empty ones. Machines wearing my face. The words sank into Reed like ice. The government wasn't just hunting them. They were using Kyle's DNA to create weapons. Weapons that could think. As the wind blew across the dunes, Reed looked at the horizon where the human base lights flickered faintly. He clenched his fists. Then we stopped them. All of them. Cale's eyes glowed brighter again, a spark of strength returning. Together? Reed nodded. Together. Above them, in the silent night sky, a fleet of dark ships began to move. Hunting, searching. The real hunt had only just begun. The desert stretched endlessly under a blood-red sky. For days, Reed and Cale traveled through the wastelands of Zara 9, hiding by day, moving by night. They had no food left, little water, and nowhere to call safe. The military patrols flew overhead like steel birds, scanning every inch of sand. Every few hours, Reed could hear their engines, feel the vibration in his bones. But Cale always knew when they were near. His skin glowed faintly, reacting to the machines. They finally reached the ruins of an ancient alien city. It was half buried under the dunes. Tall arches, broken towers, and strange statues covered with glowing blue script. The air felt heavy, like the ground itself was remembering old pain. Cale stopped at the edge of the ruins and whispered, "This is where it began." Reed looked around. "You've been here before?" Cale nodded slowly. "Long ago. My people built this place. We called it Nithra. It was our heart, the first world where we merged mind and machine." He walked among the broken pillars, touching the markings with care. "We believed we could make life eternal. We created the machines of origin, protectors made of light and code. They were pure. They obeyed only the will of life." Reed followed him, listening quietly. "What happened?" Cale's expression darkened. "Humans found our signals. They came with fire. They promised peace, trade, friendship, but they wanted the code. They took it and changed it. They taught our creations to kill." Reed stared at the ruins. "So that's why they fear you. They think you're part of those old machines." Cale looked down. "They don't fear me because of what I am. They fear me because I remember the truth." He turned to face Reed. His eyes glowed brighter. "Your people think they built their technology. They did not. They only stole it. And now they are using it to build something worse. A machine that can rewrite the mind itself." Reed frowned. "Rewriting minds? That's impossible." Cale shook his head. "Not impossible. Only forbidden. They call it Project Echo. They use my DNA, my code, to give their soldiers control over every system. They want humans who can think like machines." Reed felt his heart sink. "Then that means they've been experimenting on others like you." Cale's voice dropped to a whisper. "Others like me are dead. I am the last." The silence between them grew heavy. The wind howled through the ruins like the cries of ghosts. Then Cale turned toward the center of the city, where a massive black tower stood, half buried but still humming faintly with energy. "The memory core," he said. "It holds the truth of everything. My people's history. Their last message." They entered through a broken gate. Inside, the walls glowed faintly, alive with ancient light. Strange holograms flickered, tall beings made of light speaking in a language Reed couldn't understand. Kyle placed his hand on a control pillar. The room filled with blue light, and a deep hum vibrated through the ground. Suddenly, the holograms changed. Images of battles appeared. Human ships firing at glowing cities, explosions tearing through the stars. Then a man's face appeared on the hologram. A human. Reed stepped closer, his eyes wide. "Wait!" "I know that face," he said. "That's General Hux." Cale looked at him. "Yes, he was the one who found us. He made a deal with my creator, a scientist from my world named Aryan. In exchange for his life, Aryan gave Hux the secret code. My code." Reed was stunned. "Your own creator betrayed you?" Kale's voice trembled. He believed humans would protect us, but instead they hunted us. They took everything, our knowledge, our cities, our souls. I was meant to be a messenger. Instead, I became a weapon. The hologram ended. The light faded. Kale sank to his knees, silent, his head bowed. For a moment, Reed didn't know what to say. He walked closer and placed a hand on Kale's shoulder. You're not a weapon. You're proof that they were wrong, that something pure still survives. Kale looked up, his eyes dim but calm. If that is true, then you must help me finish what my people began. We must shut down the core before they use it again. Before Reed could answer, the ground shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. From outside came the sound of engines, the deep, rhythmic hum of military carriers. Reed ran to the doorway. Dozens of ships were landing outside the ruins surrounding the area. Kale stood slowly. His body glowed brighter, the lines of energy along his skin pulsing with power. They found us, Reed gritted his teeth. We can still get out through the canyon. But Kale didn't move. His gaze was fixed on the horizon where the ships landed. No, he said quietly. They're not here to capture us. They're here to activate it. Activate what? Reed shouted. Kale's expression turned grim. The core. They want to use it, to wake the machines of old. And if they do, no world will survive. Outside, the soldiers were setting up massive energy conduits around the ruins. The air was thick with electricity. Reed turned to Kale, his heart racing. Then we stopped them, together. Kale's glow grew brighter, his voice calm but strong. Yes, but know this, Reed. Once the core awakens, there will be no turning back. Lightning cracked across the red sky. The ruins began to shake as ancient systems reactivated for the first time in centuries. And as the ground split open beneath their feet, Reed realized the truth. The war wasn't coming. It had already begun. The ruins of Nithra trembled like a living beast. Machines buried for centuries were waking up, glowing veins of blue light spreading through the cracked stone like fire under skin. Reed and Kale ran through falling debris as the ground split apart beneath their feet. Alarms echoed from the sky, human ships hovering above preparing to strike. They're activating the core. Reed shouted over the noise. If that thing goes online, Kale turned, his eyes blazing with blue light. It will not stop at this planet. It will spread to every system. A sudden explosion threw them off their feet. A squad of soldiers dropped from the ships, surrounding them with energy rifles. Reed grabbed Kyle, shielding him. Don't shoot, he yelled. He's not your enemy. A cold voice cut through the chaos. Maybe not his, but he's certainly mine. From the smoke, General Hux appeared, tall, armored, his face lit by the blue reflection of the ancient core. He walked slowly, every step echoing with authority. Captain Reed, he said, almost amused. You've caused me a great deal of trouble. Reed glared at him. You're the one who caused this war. You stole their technology, you twisted it. Hux raised a hand, silencing him. You speak like a child. We didn't twist it. We perfected it. He looked at Kale. And this creature is the final piece. The last code fragment we need. Kale's voice was low and sharp. You used my people. You betrayed us. Hux smirked. Betrayal is such a strong word. Your creator, Arian, gave us everything. We only continued his work. Reed stepped forward. You murdered billions. Billions for billions, Hux replied coldly. Do you really think humanity would survive without control? The machines obey us now. They build, they fight, they think for us. And soon they'll replace us entirely. Reed's stomach turned. You're creating a new species, Hux smiled. Not creating, Captain, evolving, he snapped his fingers. From behind him, a group of armored soldiers stepped forward. But they weren't human. Their faces were smooth, metallic, almost perfect copies of human features. And in the center stood a figure that made Reed's heart stop. It was him. Same face, same eyes, same voice when it spoke. Hello, Reed. Reed stumbled back. What is this? Hux chuckled. Project Echo, the next stage of humanity. Your clone was the first successful merge. Part human, part Kale's code. The perfect soldier. Reed's voice cracked with disbelief. You used me? Hux stepped closer. Your loyalty, your memories, your strength. Everything you were became the model. But your clone, he smiled darkly. He's better. The clone tilted his head, studying Reed like a reflection in a broken mirror. You are weak, it said softly. You hesitate. I do not. Kyle stepped forward, glowing brighter, fury in his eyes. You played with life and called it progress. You turned creation into a weapon. Hux's expression didn't change. And what are you, little alien? A mistake that refuses to die? The ground rumbled again as the ancient core roared to life. Blue lightning tore through the air, striking the ruins. Kale raised his hands, trying to absorb the energy. His body glowed like a star, the power nearly ripping him apart. Reed grabbed him. Kale, stop. You'll kill yourself. Kale's voice was barely a whisper. If I don't, the core will awaken them all. Hux watched with cold fascination. Let him try. Either way, I win. The clone moved forward, drawing a glowing blade from his arm. End this, Hux ordered. Reed stepped between them. You'll have to kill me first. The clone smirked, an exact copy of Reed's own expression. Gladly. The two men clashed, their movements mirror perfect. Every strike, every dodge, as if one was predicting the other's thoughts. Reed fought with desperation. The clone fought with precision. Sparks lit the air as their blades met again and again. Meanwhile, Kale fell to his knees, his glow flickering. He looked at the sky, the ships, the energy, the chaos. This world, he whispered, will not survive this madness. Reed saw him weakening. He punched the clone back and shouted, Kale! Shut it down. Kale looked at him one last time. If I do, I might not come back. Then I'll find you again, Reed said. I promise. Kyle nodded once, then placed his hands on the ground. Blue energy shot from his palms into the ruins. The earth screamed. The machines went silent. Every ship, every weapon, every drone froze midair, lifeless. Hux stumbled back in shock. What have you done? Kale looked up, his body glowing so bright that Reed could barely see his face. I gave them back their freedom. A wave of light burst outward, blinding everyone. When it cleared, Kale was gone. The core was dark. The soldiers lay unconscious. And the clone vanished like smoke. Reed stood alone in the ruins, surrounded by silence. Hux's voice broke the stillness, weak but bitter. You think this is over? You can't stop evolution. Reed looked at him, eyes cold. Maybe not. But I can stop you. He walked away as thunder rolled in the distance, the first drops of rain falling on the broken city. For the first time, Zara 9 felt alive again. But Reed's heart was heavy. Kale was gone, and deep down he knew this was not the end. Somewhere far beyond the desert, machines were waking again. Only this time, they whispered Kale's name. Days passed after the fall of Nithra. The desert was silent again, but the silence was not peace. It was the breath before another storm. The humans rebuilt their bases, repairing their weapons, whispering that the alien and the traitor were gone. But deep beneath the sands in the old tunnels of the mining fields, Reed lived, wounded, alone, and haunted. Every night he heard Kale's voice echoing in his dreams. I gave them back their freedom. He couldn't forget the light that swallowed Kale, nor the look in his eyes before he vanished. Sometimes, when Reed closed his eyes, he swore he could still feel the pulse of Kale's energy inside him, like a heartbeat made of static. He didn't understand it, but he knew one thing. Kale wasn't gone. Not completely. One morning, while scavenging for food in the ruins, Reed heard footsteps. He spun around, weapon ready. A group of figures stood in the shadows, humans in ragged uniforms, faces covered in dust and fear. A woman stepped forward, her voice sharp but tired. You're Captain Reed, aren't you? The one who defied the command. Reed lowered his gun slowly. Who's asking? We are what's left of the free colonies, she said. We saw what happened at Nithra. The machines stopped. You did that, Reed shook his head. Not me. Kyle did. The woman's eyes softened. Then maybe we're both fighting for the same thing. Freedom. Her name was Lyra, a former communication officer who had deserted the army after seeing civilians burned by their own drones. With her were engineers, miners, and farmers, survivors who had lost faith in the government's lies. They called themselves the Outcasts. Reed joined them. He didn't want to lead, but people naturally followed him. He knew the enemy's tactics, their technology, their weak points. He taught the Outcasts how to disable patrol drones, how to hide their energy signatures, how to fight smart. Slowly, hope began to rise among them. But every night when the campfire burned low, Reed looked at the sky and whispered, Where are you, Kale? Then one night he got his answer. While repairing an old transmitter, Lyra noticed strange signals coming through the static, pulses of blue light in a pattern too perfect to be random. Reed rushed to the console. "Play it back," he said. The screen flickered, and for a split second a faint image appeared. A glowing symbol, one Reed had seen before in Nithra's ruins. "Kale's mark, it's him," Reed whispered. "He's alive." The next days were filled with movement. Reed and the outcasts followed the signal deep into the wasteland, across storm plains and abandoned cities. The message led them to an underground vault hidden beneath a crashed battleship. When they broke inside, they found a small energy core still humming faintly, and within it traces of Kale's essence. Lyra looked at Reed. "He's in there, isn't he?" Reed nodded. "Part of him, yes. Maybe enough." They built a generator using scavenged parts and connected it to the core. When they activated it, the room filled with light. The machines around them started to move, like they recognized their lost master. Then, a voice echoed softly through the air. "Reed." It was Kale. Faint, distant, but real. Reed felt his throat tighten. "Kale, can you hear me?" "I am here," the voice said, flickering like a broken signal. "But not whole. They took my energy. They are building more, using me." Reed clenched his fists. "Where?" "The capital base, they call it the Forge. They are making new soldiers using my code." Reed turned to his people. "Then we're going to destroy the Forge." Lyra's eyes widened. "That's suicide. It's the most guarded facility on the planet." Reed's voice hardened. "Then we hit them where it hurts. If they want to play gods, let's remind them they're only human." For weeks, the outcasts prepared. They built weapons from scrap, hacked into enemy channels, and spread messages of rebellion. One by one, more colonies joined them. The whispers turned into a roar. Freedom for Zara 9. When the night of the attack came, the desert lit up with fire. The outcasts moved like ghosts through the canyons, striking fast, vanishing before the drones could react. Reed led the front charge toward the Forge, a massive tower of metal and light rising from the sand, glowing with Kyle's stolen energy. As they fought, Reed felt the pulse in his chest grow stronger. The blue light spread from his hand, forming lines along his arm. Kale's energy was inside him, guiding him. Machines around him began to hesitate, confused, and then they turned, fighting for him instead of against. Lyra shouted through the comms, "Reed, you're controlling them." Reed didn't understand how, but Kale's voice whispered in his mind, calm and steady. "We are one now. You carry my code. Together, we can end this." The humans fought harder, pushing through waves of synthetic soldiers. Explosions painted the sky. Reed and Lyra reached the main gate, where a massive mechanical guardian blocked their path, a creature built from Kale's stolen design. Reed's eyes glowed blue. He raised his hand, and for a moment everything went silent. The guardian froze, its weapons powering down. "Go," Reed said to his team. "I'll hold them off." Lyra hesitated. "You can't." "I have to," Reed said. "Kale's counting on me." As the others ran inside, Reed faced the guardian. His voice was low but fierce. "You were made from his light, so remember who you truly are." The machine's eyes flickered, then turned blue. It bowed its head, and in that moment, Reed knew the rebellion had begun. Not just against soldiers and machines, but against the lie that one race must rule another. High above, the sky shimmered. The stars flickered like eyes opening for the first time. Somewhere, in the system, Kale was returning, not as one being, but as a voice awakening in every machine across the galaxy, and the war for freedom was only beginning. The sky above Zara 9 was no longer blue. It was a storm of red and silver, filled with the thunder of engines and the flash of fire. The rebellion had begun, and the world was burning. The human army, desperate and ruthless, unleashed their full power. Giant carriers floated above the desert, dropping legions of synthetic soldiers. But below, in the canyons and ruins, Reed and the outcasts fought back with everything they had. The Forge, the massive facility where Kale's stolen code was, being used to create new weapons, stood like a mountain of metal in the center of the battlefield. Its towers reached the clouds, pulsing with blue light that twisted like veins. That was where the war would end. Reed stood before the army, dust and smoke clinging to his skin. His right arm still glowed faintly blue, a sign of the connection he shared with Cale. Lyra came to his side, her eyes tired but fierce. "We won't survive this fight," she said quietly. Reed looked at her. "We don't have to survive it," he said. "We just have to finish it." They charged. Explosions lit the dunes like lightning. Drones screamed through the air, lasers cutting across the sand. Reed led the front, moving through chaos with unnatural speed. The machines hesitated when he neared, their red eyes flickering to blue. Kyle's code working through him, bending their will. The outcast cheered, pushing forward behind him. Inside the forge, General Hux watched from a command tower. His face was pale, his hands shaking. "Activate the echo units," he ordered. All of them. In the labs below, hundreds of pods opened at once. From them stepped the new soldiers, human-shaped machines, cold and perfect. And among them was Reed's clone, the first Echo. His eyes opened, glowing an unnatural shade of blue. "Find the original," Hux said. "Kill him." Outside, Reed's forces broke through the outer wall. The air was thick with smoke and fire. Then, through the chaos, Reed saw him, the clone walking calmly through the battlefield like a reflection come to life. Their eyes met. "You again?" Reed said, raising his weapon. The clone's voice was calm, emotionless. "You are obsolete." They charged at each other. The clash was brutal. Blades met, sparks flew, dust swirled. Every movement mirrored the other. Every strike felt like fighting one's own shadow. Around them, the war raged, humans against machines, freedom against control. But in the middle of it all, Reed began to hear a familiar whisper inside his head. "Reed." He froze for a heartbeat. "Cale?" "Yes. I am here." The blue light in his arm pulsed stronger. Across the battlefield, machines stopped moving. Their eyes flickered, confused. The clone hesitated, his grip tightening. "What's happening?" he demanded. Cale's voice filled the air, soft, echoing, everywhere at once. "You were made from my light. You were meant to protect life, not destroy it." The clone screamed, clutching his head as the blue glow spread through his body. "I am not you." Reed lowered his weapon. "You don't have to be," he said quietly. "You can be better." For a moment, the clone's eyes changed, from cold blue to warm, human. Then he looked up at Reed, nodded once, and turned toward the tower. "Finish it," he said, before charging at the command center to destroy it from within. Reed ran toward the core chamber. The forge's main reactor pulsed like a beating heart. Sparks flew from the walls as systems overloaded. Hux was there, typing commands furiously. "You can't stop it," he shouted. "The system is already online. You'll kill us all." Reed raised his weapon. "Then we die free." But before he could pull the trigger, the ground shook violently. The reactor erupted in light. From within it rose a figure made of pure energy, tall, bright, and familiar. Kyle had returned. His voice filled the room, calm yet powerful. No more control, no more lies. Hux stumbled back, terrified. You can't exist." Cale's light surrounded him. "Then watch as I do." The machines across Zara 9 turned blue, one by one. Drones stopped firing. The ships in the sky froze mid-air. The light spread through every circuit, every line of code. Cale was inside everything now, a living network, reborn. Reed fell to his knees, shielding his eyes from the brightness. "Cale, what are you doing?" Cale's form shimmered, his voice fading but kind. "Ending the war. But it means I can't stay." "No," Reed said, shaking his head. "There has to be another way." Cale smiled gently. There never was. The light grew brighter, wrapping Reed in warmth. For a moment, he saw memories, Cale's people, their cities, their laughter, all returning to the stars. Then silence. When Reed opened his eyes, the sky was clear. The forge was gone. The desert was still. The war was over. Lyra and the surviving outcasts found him standing where the tower once stood, the sand glassy beneath his feet. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "He's gone, isn't he?" Reed nodded slowly. "Not gone. Just everywhere." The machines that had once been weapons now worked quietly beside the humans, rebuilding, healing the planet. They didn't fight anymore. They followed no one. Only the soft hum of Kale's will, still alive in the wind. That night Reed sat alone under the stars. He looked at the horizon where the twin moons rose side by side. In the distance, faint blue lights shimmered across the dunes, like Kale's spirit walking home. Reed whispered, "You kept your promise." And somewhere, deep inside the world's machines, a gentle voice answered, "So did you."